Hey, welcome to the Hired AV podcast. My name is Joe Way, and I am your host. And boy, do we have a good one for you today. This is an exciting day that we're going to get to it. So if you're listening to this on your commute on Tuesday, July 1st, you may not actually have listened to the HETMA press conference yet. So there's going to be some teasers coming in later, and we're going to talk about some stuff that's coming on that. So you're getting a little intro. And if you're listening to this after, well, then there you go. But it's an exciting day for the life of HETMA and Hired AV today. And even more so because we have a great guest to kick it all off with. So, Chris, welcome to the show. Please tell everyone who you are and what you do.
Yeah, I'm excited to leave everyone on the edge of their seats while they're wondering what you're talking about. I'm Chris Kelly. I work with Creighton University in Omaha, Nebraska. We do have a campus down in Phoenix and one over in the Dominican Republic as well, much smaller scale there. Creighton, we're about evenly split between undergrad and grad, right around 10,000 between the two. And we've got grad in medicine, law, PTOT, a variety of things. I am the senior IT support specialist here at Creighton, so working on covering the basic hardware for AV in the classrooms, projectors, your AV over IP solutions, the things to make it all display there. We provide the hardware for the digital signage, but not the software or the content creation side of things, and then also helping with the group huddle spaces, conference rooms, that kind of thing as well. So maintaining, we are mostly an external integrator university. So most of ours is the break fix support as opposed to the install.
Okay, I love it. So you have a Dominican Republic campus. So how often do you tell your boss, there's having a problem with the projector down the DR. I'll be right back in 4 days.
They are working on a big stand up on a few rooms there that we're thinking at least someone will have to go down there just because of the complications of getting that put up. It's been a shared space and it'll continue to be a shared space, but they're building some new spaces for it. So someone will have to go down.
I mean, you got to have quality control. Make sure there's standardization across the campuses, right?
Take
Throw
one
it.
for the team. Yo hablo.
Exactly. You know what? Have sunscreen will travel. That's the way I look at it. That so all right. So you're there at Creighton, and you've so a fun fact. I like to go into tell people about your journey through AV. Your journey into AV and actually in higher ed is coming up only on a couple of years, if I'm not mistaken, right?
That's correct. It's a small journey at the AV part. I growing up, I always loved IT. I had the benefit of my dad was, pretty technologically advanced. He was doing things with networks and stuff at home, and we had computers from an early age, so I knew I loved that stuff. Went to start taking some college classes and learned I did not like programming very much. So I thought I better find another way, and I veered quickly into like psychology and social work. I feel like there's a little bit of a tie between those. Got my graduate degree in counseling and with a school specialization, so I can be a licensed K-12 school counselor, like in Iowa, South Dakota, this kind of area, and kind of kept with those skills, but eventually kind of burned out on the social work side of things. I worked as a crisis mental health counselor on an inpatient unit, so having people literally, try to do harm to you. Did child protection for about 5 years, got into management there, and then tried voc rehab, so helping people with diagnosed disabilities that were preventing them from getting work to get into the work field, and did that for a little bit over a year. And in that last year, I realized I needed to get out of social work and started working on certifications. So I got A plus, got ITIL, V4, and started working on like Network Plus. And once I got applied here and saw that I was probably coming here and knowing that, we were running Dante, we were running Extron, we were running QSYS, started working on those certifications in advance of coming here. But it's all been, working on the certifications and stuff, been like the last 3 years has been it kind of working towards the AVIT side.
That is awesome. So what kind of gave you that nudge to say, I mean, 'cause I actually will agree, and I want to get back to kind of to that history. So, because I actually believe we deal more with people than we do technology, even though technology is what our job descriptions talk about. But let's talk about what kind of caused you to kind of think, hey, I want to go this way, right? Even wanting to do career changes. What drew you to this and or higher ed? And if you've only been doing it for 2 years, but you've been doing 3 years worth of training, obviously you were setting yourself up for success before even the leap. So I know there's a lot to unpack there, but kind of open that up for us.
So part of it might have been a mindset, K-12 school counselor mindset, getting people prepared for education, getting people prepared for the future, doing child protection, getting people prepared to, get back out, get done with working with the service, getting people prepared for that next step in their life, doing voc rehab, getting people out into job, getting people the training they need. So like that had always been a little bit of a background similar element to a lot of the things that I did. Having that, okay, I'm working with people that are doing these huge life changes. Can I? So that
Mhm.
was always there. I knew that I had a wife who had a stable job. I was sitting decent financially that I could start investing minimal things into this. I could have kept doing the job that I had before. I wasn't necessarily happy there, but I could do it. So I wasn't out anything until I made that final leap of actually accepting a job and changing. So I had that benefit of stability behind me that I can risk that little bit of a reduce in pay and some of the changes that came with it to try and make that change. So just that, and I love education. Like I would go and take all the degrees. I would go and learn all the things. I love to learn, and I have a very very diverse interest set. So it allowed for the beneficial options of, oh, well, I can take some classes myself. I can, you know, being in this atmosphere of learning is intoxicating. Like walking around, seeing people around you everywhere that they're here to learn. Like that is their life. And then, you have some of the smartest people in the world are on college campuses doing research, doing medicine, preparing for whatever might come next. Like you just can't beat that kind of atmosphere.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. I love that. I love that stuff and that preparation because it's intentional, right? And knowing, value, looking at the different risks, obviously salary, especially if you have to take time to prep and then make that jump. So, okay, now you're coming up on 2 years. Talk about the learning curve. Was it what have you? Is it like what you thought it would be? What are the challenges you've kind of had to take on in order to get yourself successful in your role?
So when I go into something, I go into it deep to the point that my downtime is often related to learning things about that, because if I'm doing it, I'm interested in it. It's something fun for me to learn about, not just based on the job. So
You
I
know,
am
there's a
constantly
word for that.
learning.
There's a word for that. It's called workaholic. Okay, just want you to know. All right, all right. Continue. Just one.
Now that we got
I
that
am
out
one.
there. Yeah.
I'm one. So I understand.
So I'm always trying to learn more, but then I also kind of take it further and dip my feet in other different additional parts that are not necessarily essential for that position, but get more ties and connections and networking out beyond it. So I'm always deciding what's my next certification, what's the next thing I want to learn. And it might not necessarily even be things that have certifications, but just have a substantial, base of knowledge out there, that you can be reading. Like recently, I started going through the EDUCAUSE website, and they have a lot of backlog of webinars and stuff like that. So I'm not going to get any kind of a cert from that, but there's so much of an archive of knowledge on there that I have a lot of things that I can learn about. Um, Going to webinars, not necessarily a cert, but you can maybe learn some more about a tech, get some of those connections going. And I need to always have something more that I can be learning. In
Hmm.
social work, I kind of hit that stopping point where like there wasn't books, there wasn't material, there wasn't networking on concepts. With this, I'm always going to have more that I can be learning, and I love that. I usually learn things fairly quick, so I'll try multiple modalities of learning. And so with some of the stuff here, I had the benefit of coming in right when a new building with the latest and greatest of our technology was being stood up. And so I said, that's going to be my building. I'm going to learn that building inside and out. And so I'm going to be the SME on that building. And that kind of became the model for some buildings that followed after it. And so I just happened to have that benefit of knowing, it was a big AV over IP push. There was a lot of technology in that we hadn't really done much yet. So that set me up really well for moving forward.
Yeah, I love that. So, what areas do you enjoying the most? Is there any particular? Is it the pro? I know you said you use a lot of third-party integrators, but is it kind of tinkering stuff? Is it still the human side with the support, all of that? What kind of where are you feeling the most fulfillment out of the role?
In a lot of ways, I love the networking and the connection side, because I also am really passionate about like diversity, equity, inclusion, accessibility
Hmm.
efforts. So I participate in like the Inclusive Excellence Council with people from
Hmm.
assigned by the president to work on that side of things. I am participating in other groups on campus that have events going on just to try and get out everywhere that I can. I am working on getting connections in different places and then learning about things. So right now I'm setting up an initiative where I'm going to go start doing job shadowing in different places that are kind of IT adjacent to see what it is better about what they do. So like I have it set up to go spend like half a day with an instructional designer because I don't know the ins and outs of their job very well. So I'm going to go learn it. I'm going to go
Hmm.
spend half a day with someone in the networking team. I have a fairly good grasp about networking, but to actually see it from their perspective, it
Yeah.
just allows me a lot of ways. And because the university supports that, because we're not like, nope, this is your lane, you stay here, I'm able to do some of those things and get out and learn more of the stuff, ideally building better connections, reducing any silo walls that might exist, and being able to say, if someone has a question, like, oh, no, this is kind of what they do, this is how we can better work with that.
Yeah, when I love something you said there because it's some of the advice I give. A lot of times people will come to me and say, how do I take the next step in my career? Where do I advance? How do I get into leadership? And I actually give very similar advice to exactly what you're doing. And that's what I say is learn all the attachments to your role. Like if you might already be a specialist in what you do, but that's only going to get you up to being a senior XYZ, right? Or whatever as an individual contributor. If you want to step beyond that or get into it, know how you have an impact to other people. Learn those other people's, I mean, not necessarily to become a master, but know what do they want from you, right? How does what you do impact what they do? And then what they do, it's kind of a sense of like, knowing your audience, right? And when you're talking to them, what are the words that they're using? How does what we say translate to them, right? And kind of starting to kind of build that network out and that bigger circle. Now you're going to be more effective in the leadership role, right? Because leadership isn't necessarily about being a master of a technology or a skill. It's about managing people and relationships, right? And so I love what you're doing there because it gives that extra sense um, of understanding. I don't know what the right words are, but absolutely love that.
Well, and I don't know the best part to put it in, but I did want to comment on the concept of, I think for the benefit of our community, like I am not a manager. I'm just, I'm one step up for the bottom within our sort of AV stuff. So like this community is not just for directors, it's not just for CIOs, it's not just for managers. We are for everyone. So I can feel a little bit of an imposter phenomenon because we have a lot of very important people in their universities that are at, some of the higher echelons of things, yourself included. But I like to emphasize, and I talk to my team and other people, that we are for everyone that is working kind of in this higher ed AV field in our
Mhm.
allies outside of it. And I like to think that I'm somewhat of an example of that, even though kind of I have to fight back that imposter phenomenon of myself. Like, how do I deserve to be here? But I feel like even despite sort of my limited rank at my university, I'm still contributing to the HETMA community. I'm still,
Mhm.
giving things back and helping our community get better despite not being a quote unquote manager.
Mhm. I would say, leaders don't have titles, right? You will never ever see like, I'm executive director is my official title, but and I am a leader, but the title doesn't make me a leader, right? You can lead from wherever you are and you can be an influence. And in fact, a lot of times the people who are the ones that are the boots on the ground are the ones who can have the most impact
Mhm.
over anybody else, right? Because the more we become like, I make the joke that I'm just a suit now, but the fact is, I couldn't tell you what happens day to day. So when someone asks me, well, what technology can you, it's like funny when vendors come to me, I want to show you this new little box over this booth. I'm like, I don't care. And it's not because I actually don't care about technology. It's because I'm not the one who support. I don't even know what our customers need. I have
Mhm.
no idea. That's why we have a team and we need to rely on them. Right. And so I think that you actually have more of an opportunity to influence by growing that circle, but also then because of your position, you see how the technology choices impact the end user. Further you go, the further away you get from that, right? Um, and that's where kind of deferring those decisions, and that's why I think it's great with, the advisors get into, you've stepped in. Actually, I want to. So, if only around a couple of years, how did you even find HETMA first off?
You. I went, like I said, when I go into things, I go into them big. And so I was like, okay, I'm going into this field. Let's find a podcast. Let's find something to listen to. And I found you. You are the key that got me into it. And that's a lot of why I do have such, my side admiration for you, because you opened up all this for me with your show. I listened to your show. That got me learning about HETMA. That got me learning about the people. I learned names from the show that you had on. I learned about what other people are doing. I learned so much from your show. I'm super thankful for you for what it's worth. Um,
Didn't even pay you to say that. That's great.
no,
But yeah,
you know, uh, shameless plug from the other side. You brought me on with a purpose. But yeah, that was my way in. Was listening to
mhm.
your show, catching all the way up on it, and learning the people, learning the connections, and then reaching out beyond that. So yeah, it has been a priceless experience. And then getting onto other podcasts beyond yours. But yeah, it has been wonderful. I appreciate you.
That's great because it's funny because before we even hit, record, and I was pulling up your link. So people behind the scenes, like I said, I don't script anything, but I do keep the LinkedIn open. And I was like, wait, only 2 years because the way you're into having like I wouldn't have guessed it, and it's like it feels like you've been in it in forever and all of that stuff. Um, so I love that. But so now you're taking over the advisory council. What's your vision for that over this kind of next year? And I'm going to tease. So I want you to answer that before we bring in some teasing about a press conference, but just in
More
general.
more edge of the seat, Joe. So the advisory board experience has been wonderful. There was a vacancy late last year, and I had been talking with Teddy, and I had said, what is kind of what you envision this? Kind of give me some guardrails and ideas about where you want this to go. Got a little bit of a baseline and just kind of ran with it. And I've taken kind of my vision of it that I hope is fairly in alignment with what we had hoped with it. Moving forward, we are booked almost every week through part of September at this point, barring like we have the road show coming up in a couple weeks, so like I don't have one scheduled then. InfoCom, we didn't have one scheduled. But for the most part, we're booked every week with sponsors and getting more and more in as they are kind of re-upping for this next year. We reach out to them to get going. We have a new opportunity that I'm working on coordinating with ScreenBeam. That could be potentially something that we look
Mhm.
at implementing further. So ScreenBeam is looking at doing a new solution that allows kind of for content distribution out to different stations. So from a
Mhm.
centralized instructor station, say you could have these questions go to these ones and these questions go to these other stations, and you can distribute it out. They are not, I believe, yet in beta, but they're hoping to be in like doing some beta testing come the September time. So we have a advisory board meeting scheduled with them in September. They're going to talk about where they're at, and they're going to get some units into our hands to test, not as the approved program, but through an advisory lens of how do we get this modified before we have it as an actual release. We are
Yeah.
advising them truly on the hardware with it in our hands for how we want it to work in the higher ed vertical, which is a neat and unique way to get into it. So I that might be something that we could see doing with other products moving forward.
Yeah, I love that. And kind of the fun fact people know is HETMA was started because of this advisor. It's funny that this is the one that kind of like got put on the back burner in a way over the last few years, but it's because of VC and I going to and sitting on the Panasonic advisory board that this even like took off and being able to have that. that kind of influence in product development. And that's the way I like to look at this, because a lot of times people confuse advisory versus approved. It's like, I think approved is product on the market in the channel, what are you going to go and buy and do? And I like to think of advisory as product roadmap, design, install, channel positioning and market positioning, right? Use us to be able to position your product and your direction better, and then let us give you feedback before you go and spend all the money in production, and then find out it has features that we really don't care about or wish it had, right? And I think that's where that is. So I love seeing this kick up, and um, I love seeing the calendar first off, like, because it's great to be able to know, okay, we're really getting this. But also, I think it's the one for our sponsors and our people to have the most get. I think really for our sponsors get the most value out of their entire membership. It's the one that has the most value, because in the end, if you actually listen to us and you partner with us and we share, we know that some schools, especially if you got, what if large school needs different than a smaller school, different than a public versus a private, right? And you take those into account and you create the right thing, it's going to translate to sales, right? And then you're also going to have happy customers, because we're going to be installing stuff we want to actually have, right? And I think that that's really the key. So it's awesome, awesome to see that and see these partnerships develop.
Well, and we're a microcosm. That's a nice thing about the advisory boards is even now, as we're still building up the scale of our numbers that attend consistently, prior to summer is obviously a complicated time. We were getting about 20-ish or so HETMA members attending each one. But it was a nice microcosm because you had people from, UT Austin, you had people from Pikeville, you had people from large to small universities, crust run houses, extra run houses, QSIS, people that are running Logitech, all sorts of different things. You are getting a nice slice of the higher ed vertical in there to get a diversity of perspectives and getting people asking questions that you might not get anywhere else.
Hmm.
We do things differently. We do things that are not the listed way that they're anticipating things to be used. And it becomes this really great dialogue a lot of the times. They might have a presentation that they're going to start with, but they usually want it conversational. They just want to sit, chat, pick each other's brains and see how we can be of benefit to each other. So
Yeah.
it's been a wonderful opportunity, especially the times that it really works out the way it's intended.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So now I want to turn. So it's a little bit of, so some of you who are listening to this when it comes out on in your commute to work before the press conference at 11 Eastern, right? Or might be listening to this to know one of the biggest changes we're making with HETMA is that we are planning out an entire year. How crazy! We're going to be organized, but we're planning out a year and theming it and really focusing on one, growing the organization itself and formalizing things. And I think what you're doing with advisory is a great example of formalizing our initiatives. So already great job with that. But then second, investing in the well-being of our people. And that has to do with themes that we're going to be handling each month, and everything's going to be focused on, so that everyone's career, when they look back at next Infocom and they show up, they go, I'm a better person and professional and a better place than I was at the last one. And I think that's kind of our big goal. And of course, numbers growing, et cetera, right? There's a business side and there's a personal side, right? Um, so I shared it with you ahead of time. So under embargo, you've got a little bit of the insight ahead of time. Um,
I
so
can
the
break the
theme,
NDA for this part of the
I
conversation.
know, there we go. The theme kind of for July, I'm like my months are all. The theme for July is kind of True North. We're doing a road to 10K, a journey, kind of a journey path, race car type of feel for the next year. And the theme is True North, your future you, kind of setting your personal mission and goals. So I want to take that two ways. One, what does that mean for you, right? Especially because I think you are so aligned with so many of the listeners and people that, new into AV, figuring out, kind of positioning your career. Is that going to, personally impact you? And then second part, again, breaking the rules of hosting, never ask two questions at once, but the two-part question is, what's your advice then for others in that same position? So what's it mean for you? What's it mean for others?
I think first and foremost, you don't know what you don't know. So learning more about the people around you, the people that are doing similar things, the people that are above you. Know what your options are, know what you've got available. If you can find it, if there's any guardrails, find those, but know what playground you're working in and who you can play with on that playground, and start asking questions. See what you can do moving forward. See what other people in similar situations have done. What are they finding as successes? What are they finding as issues? Because, like you said, the road to 10,000, while it does have a financial side, it's got a hugely personal side in that the more people we have, the more connections we have.
Hmm.
The more likely you are to have someone that is in a very similar situation to what you've got. Lean into it. Find the people that you can lean into. Find the parts of the community that, maybe there's a college next door that you didn't even know had someone from HETMA in it. Maybe there's someone that's in a similar sized university on the West Coast, and maybe they're demoing out something. So, okay, well, how are you doing that? Finding those connections will get you more tied in, but it'll also give you more enlightenment about the way that you're going to be able to potentially move forward and help fill your cup. Because a lot of us are going through a lot of stuff that might be draining our cup between, the different financing things, the different efforts that are going on anywhere. It's a trying time. Finding those connections, finding ways to talk to people and remain engaged is going to help you fill that cup and keep you moving towards your next step.
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely love that. Because I think that that is the power of the community, right? That's the power of numbers. I always think too, obviously, you want to grow an organization. A bigger organization is a stronger organization, get that. But it also means more lives can be impacted. Right. And I think that that to me is always what it's been about. It's always been about giving a voice to those who aren't the UCLAs and the Vanderbilts and the get everything, right? But still have that. So the more we grow that, the more opportunities that each of our initiatives has to be able to invest in people. Right. And that's so I love exactly what you said, especially when it comes to the local level. Right. I mean, I used to joke all the time, if you listen to the earlier episodes, like, I know more people around the country who are kind of the peers, and I couldn't even tell you who's at LA City Community College 3 blocks down,
Mhm.
right? Exact same role. So there's something wrong with that, right? Um, and so it's a matter, I think, of now let's refocus. And if we all kind of take that next step down and go, who else can benefit from this, both to grow my regional. So I think definitely the regional groups is going to be solid, great in this, but then also kind of from that personal side, like you said, because there's going to be people, I found this after like my house fire, right? Funny is a bad word after a house fire, but you get what I'm saying. Like it after the for the next year, how people would reach out to me when they were going through a tragedy, not necessarily their own fire, but well, actually, like with the LA
Yeah,
fires that
some
happened,
did.
right? And it's like, hey, I know you went through this and you were open and honest about it, and let's go. So I think that that's what's also going to happen as we grow is people who are looking for, hey, you know what? DEI at my school has been gone away, but I still need support. Right. Well, guess what? We have a whole committee. We have people who are interested in that. Right. We have, I just got a new boss. And I don't know how to deal with this, and I'm new leadership. Okay. Well, guess what? There's other people going through that. And I think that's one of the advantages to me.
Yeah, on that note, like of the looking local, it was in a meeting not too long ago where I was sitting and I noticed that someone's name had the dash University of Omaha. Because when we are in meetings, I think it's great for us to have our universities, whoever we're connected with there. It's like, yes, there's someone right down the road from me. I was able to get connected with them. We've got a good connection. We're talking. They ended up being able to go to InfoComm and the Ed Summit. So I met them at person, even though they're in the same town down at InfoComm in Orlando. But we've got this connection established, and so I'm working through the back channels to try and get more information, knowledge, collaboration going with the University of Omaha up here, because they're not that far away from us. They have some similar things to us. We Connection is our greatest strength, and we don't
Hmm.
do it that often that well. So just working on those connections, whether it's local, the HETMA site, whatever, you might realize that there are local people that you didn't know were existing on that same space.
100%. 100%. I think that that is such um, a huge value that we can get. It's almost kind of going, it's funny, you wouldn't think our goal is to scale large, but that only happens by going more grassroots. Right? I mean, like they're two completely different directions, but they're so interconnected. I love that. So now I know you haven't had much time to kind of really think about this as a chair, but what does that now mean to take this theme of personal growth, right? I mean, and investing in our people and moving their careers. What's that mean as far as advisories? Because advisory typically we look at it as more of a sponsor manufacturer relationship, but there are people who are there and investing in them. How do you kind of see that impacting them?
So to look at advisories from more of that personal growth lens.
Hmm. Yeah.
So I've a significant amount of the people that attend the advisory meetings are more the silent participants. We have a handful that are the more vocal, the more getting engaged. So I think using that time of encouragement to try and get people like your voice is valued, getting people to realize that anyone that's doing this work has a valuable voice, empowering people to get in there, ask questions, explore. That can be a great way to get people to do some of their own self-empowerment, self-revelation on things, to realize I have a worthwhile opinion, a,
Hmm.
getting outside of some of that imposter phenomenon stuff, but then also getting people in the after conversations that you just had someone that is a higher up from Sony, like that is a name known across the world, talking to you from little
Hmm.
no name university. What does that do for you? Just
Hmm.
getting people to realize the power that we have by joining in this group and participating in these things can help with some of that self-realization, because once you stop being so scared and isolated, you can start to really grow, expand, and get some more knowledge that'll gain in other places.
Yeah, I love that, and I always think that that is what's amazing. I remember too, like um, even taking my team or our board, right? Because how many of our board like came through Prism or came through, being that small school who were looking for a community. And then next thing you know, they're at an Infocom and they're at a VIP dinner with the most powerful people in our industry. And those people are saying, tell me what your school needs. Tell me how this, like, what other organization gives that, that quote unquote power, that, career, influence, whatever the right word is, but then also, how does that empower you as a person to know, hey, I'm going to go back to my job and know that, the CEO of XYZ listened to me and sat down and wanted to know, and they're going to influence, like, that's huge, kind of help you feel like you fit in the room. Because that's one of the complaints I hear a lot about from our people is, they go into the, planning meeting or construction meeting and they're sitting there and they don't feel like they're up to, or they don't have that voice. Well, in your industry, you do, you know? And I think that that's a huge, huge push. And I absolutely think that's where advisories can help with that too, and taking those next step things. So now to get to a question out of my monologue, my late monologue of the show. Before we go, we're going to let the transition to wrap it around in a few, but I want to go back to a kind of you now. So where is your career going from here? Now, like again, you've been here for you've been in for 2 years. What are the, and even from a technology, what are the projects you're working on? What have you kind of learned to say, hey, I'm digging into this, whether AV over here, whatever, you see stuff. Like, so where are you going when you have a new project come up? What is that direction, and or are there fun things you're working on now?
I'm hoping to keep advancing, moving more into the management realm of things here. And I have a bit of that experience with managing people, so I'm hoping that I can build upon that with the knowledge I've got here. Um, at any time, we have a variety of, so I will go out and find my own little projects to work on. So when I started here, we had GVE from Extron, but it had kind of fallen into disuse, and there were a lot of nodes that weren't valid anymore. And so just kind of one day said, okay, we're going to purge it all and start over, re-add everything. I had to update a lot of the code on a lot of our stuff to be compliant with GVE. I had to update the server version. And it was just, I learned a ton in that process. And that's one of my favorite things is you jump into these projects. I don't know probably half of what I need to know to get it done, but this gives me that cause to learn. Um,
Hmm.
with that, I had to dig more into Python programming because we have global scripter programs around that I had to go in and modify the Python program. That's not something I had ever done before, was having a cause to go in and mess with Python programming. So that was a big one. Just getting as much of our stuff remote accessible as possible has been a lot of my mission. Getting off of local isolated in-room switches so that when a call comes in, I can quickly go into that QSys core and I can see, okay, this tie is down. Let's go into the Dante, get that tie back up. I can go into GVE. I can get pinged that a control processor is down. I can hit a watt box to recycle the power on that control processor, get it back up, ideally before it's had an end user impact. So a lot of what I've been doing lately is that working on getting that remote capability to keep from body. Granted, I still want bodies to go to the room, to talk to that person, to make that personal connection, let them know that we see them, we hear them, check if there's something else that came up after that, because it could be multiple issues that were up. But to be able to potentially have them up and going before we even make it to that room to check on them, I think is huge. Keeping to do that kind of stuff and starting to look at the security side of things. Everyone can improve their security posture, and we are definitely one that could use doing that soon as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's actually a huge push, especially as things become network based. I mean, they already are network based, but especially the move to cloud, right? And third party risk management. What you can even put on a network? Does it have to pass your cybersecurity rules? What do the manufacturers have to do? Which actually, by the way, is a great advisory thing too. Is well, let's talk about cybersecurity with stuff, right, to help with those things. So I think that's great. And that's a great push because that's exactly where I think things are going. So all right, so now we're gonna have to rotate. We're not rotating. Let me get up and spin around. We're gonna transition into the rapid round. So the rapid round part here is there's no right or wrong answer. Just read the questions that mean nothing, but there could be a wrong answer if I have an opinion of my own. So that being said, everyone gets the same first question. Higher ed is about traditions. A lot of it in college is about traditions. What is your favorite college tradition?
So fortunately, I've heard a lot of these questions before, so I've been able to pre-formulate some thoughts. One of my favorite parts about colleges that I feel like doesn't get enough credit is you have a lot of people there that are wanting to have voices. You get people joining advocacy groups, you get people standing up for things, you get people doing protests, you get people joining organizations that cause them to find their voice. So you might have, celebrations for pride that you wouldn't find in your average business. You might have celebrations for coming out day. You might have celebrations for Indigenous Peoples Day. All these things that you can get people joining in advocacy for and celebration for that you just don't find in your average 9 to 5 real business job. By being here in this college community, you get to help participate in those things. You get to see the next generation and help encourage that voice to keep moving forward.
Yeah, I love that. That's a good answer. See, someone who listens to the show and thought about the answer. See, I can always tell people don't listen to the show because it throws them off, right? When I say, it's like it's already been on for 300 times the question. So I love that because it is a downplayed part of it, right? Is kind of also finding that voice, right, and being able to be and celebrating that. I love. I don't get to walk through quad as much anymore since I stepped out of kind of the daily roles. But I used to love that and just kind of going a long way and walking through the middle of campus and just seeing the student group set up and the tables. And it's like, God, I remember when I had that kind of fire about an issue, right? And that is awesome. That's a great answer.
I try to walk our little mall down the main part of campus at least once a day or so, and to see the groups getting set up, the causes that are, they're standing up for, the different fundraising efforts to go towards that is a thing that if more people could keep that moving forward into their grown-up lives, I think it would be great.
It's always a good way to get a Krispy Kreme for about $1. Just
Yeah.
and then you're supporting whatever thing, I bet you got a Krispy Kreme out of it. So that's a solid. All right. So I'm looking at your LinkedIn, and I have one problem with it.
Uh-oh.
Your biggest claim to fame is not listed, and that is you are the copyright owner of Joe Way Fun and Flashy. You are the designer, creator, everything behind the limited edition Joe Way pin. So first off, that was great. Were you surprised when I put that on a pin?
No, I was happy. I was glad with what the AI helped me come up with throughout that virtual conference in that short period afterward. I have the pin prominently displayed on my sash here in my little cubicle area. Um, and it is right up there. So the pin is always staring at me.
So I don't know if you were on the meeting when I said it. I found out I had I thought I ran out. I have an extra bag. It
I saw that.
was hidden in the bottom of my my backpack, and I went and pulled it. And so there we go. There's still 100 of them out, ready to be out there in the wild at some point. So so that was fun. I loved it. I love when you were doing that during the virtual conference, and it was a fun little thing to do throughout InfoComm as well.
Community builders.
Yep. All right. Next rapid round question. I always like to ask people about food and drink and where we're going to go. So when I come visit you now, I was just back in Lincoln not too long ago, so it's not too far, about an hour away. My first stop when I got off the plane was Runza. So
That's a local treat.
hmm but when I then go up to Omaha, where are we going? Where are we hanging out?
So I'm not as adventurous as a lot. I would probably just go to Quaker Steak and Lube. It's actually a national chain. I didn't realize. It's more over in kind of the Ohio area. They have a lot of the 35 flavors of wings and stuff that you can do, but then steaks and burgers, and they got like motorcycles and cars all hung from the ceiling to look like a pit stop race station, and super tall beers that you can get and share if you like. Um, so yeah, just a nice, and it's not somewhere downtown that's a pain in the ass to park at or anything. It's actually on the Council Bluffs side, right over by the Mid America Center. And there's a nice brewery that's walking distance from it. And the brewery will actually let you go get food from Quaker Steak and then bring it over to the brewery and sit and share.
Oh, there you go. I like that. I like that. You can do so. I'll be back there at some point. Actually, it might be. See, the good thing is being an SC alum and a UCLA employee, they're going to play UNL at some point, at least every other year there. So I got to come back and see my fans. So there we go.
Well, and I'm seeing what I can do about the possibility of a road show here at some
Ooh,
point. I just, we've got some of the bigger players in town, the AVI or Forte, AVI, SPL, folks like that. So we might be able
yeah,
to get enough.
yeah. Between that area, between Lincoln, Omaha, into Iowa, like you could get a good pull around there too.
Mm.
Absolutely.
And
I
Kansas
love
City
that
is
idea.
only like 3-ish hours away, and there's a lot down in Kansas City.
Oh, I didn't realize it was that close. Wow. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I can barely even get to the office in 3 hours sometimes, depending on the 405 traffic backup. So there's that, right? Um, all right. So next rapid round question then. Top memory from Infocom.
Oh gosh. Ah, you know, uh, Brad Paisley would not probably be my favorite music type, but we just had a good time as a group of us at Brad Paisley. The kiss cam moments, things were the thing he did with the cell phone was just a unique thing where he took the woman's cell phone and kind of said, well, this is what you last got on Amazon, and just kind of a handful of us hanging up there right by the stage and just like it was our show at that point almost. So it was just a nice community evening celebration. So
Yeah, I will tell you that was pretty cool. That is my kind of music though too. So that was pretty awesome.
yeah, I had family members that were very jealous and said that Brad Paisley is on their bucket list.
Yeah, and what was actually one thing he did a really good job with is because when you play corporate events for groups for any artist is tough because that half the crowd is probably maybe not even heard of you, right? Or isn't necessarily a fan. I mean, if you're a talented artist, people are going to at least go, okay, it's not my kind of music, but it's talent, it's good, right? I mean, like people will give you that, but it's hard because you've got 4 rows up front of diehards, and then people who are just chatting in the back and grabbing a drink. So I mean, I thought he did a really good job of like interacting with the crowd. Of
Yeah,
course,
he's a
Ann and
showman.
Carl getting kiss cammed.
Oh
So
yeah, that memory will live on forever. I just wish I would have had my camera up sooner to record that because that would have been priceless.
yeah, that was rad. That was rad. Um, And all right, so now, actually not the last one. I got one after this. So fill in the blank ish. Infocom 2026 ... Take it wherever you want.
We'll
And you
be
can't just say is in Las Vegas. That's
oh,
the cop out.
we'll be bigger and better as we near our 10,000 member mark, and we do more things that people never thought we could accomplish as higher ed.
All right. I like it. I like it. I like it. All right. Then the very last, and if you listen, you're going to know what this is. So the show is yours. You got 1 minute. Okay. If you had your own show, any topic of discussion, you can take it wherever you want. There has been everything across the board. And so you can do whatever you like. And your time starts now.
So, like I said, near and dear to my heart, diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility needs to have more ground gained. We are backtracking on it in a lot of ways, which is scary, unfortunate, and something that I would have hoped to never see. It's obviously a very broad topic. A lot of people can benefit from accessibility things that were intended for a niche audience, like captions. Everyone can benefit from captions. A lot of us that have no issues hearing things benefit from captions. Curb cuts, something we all benefit from. Obviously, from the diversity side, when you look at any research places that have a more diverse pool of people in their business, succeed more, getting the diverse perspectives, getting the better backgrounds, having more openness and culture. There are too many places that look like you and me, Joe. We need to get more people out there. We need to find ways to increase our pools, stop sending out things to the same places to bring in the same people, finding out new niches that we can send it to, whether it's HBCUs, whether it's user groups, whether it's whatever, finding ways to get more people from more backgrounds into our places and stop perpetuating the you and me cycle.
Yes. Love it. Absolutely love that. And it's absolutely right. And I think that goes right along with it's our vision. We're an advocacy group. Let's advocate for everybody and let's find the people that need advocacy, but don't have the resources or knowledge or ability to do it, So let's give them that and be their roadmap, you know? Yeah, I love it. That's a good one. Well prepared guests are wonderful things. Okay. Last, how can people get a hold of you and connect with you should they desire?
In a lot of ways. So you can always reach out to me, advisory@hetma.org. I'm on the website daily. I think I'm second place streak only to Chris Decter at this point. Someday he'll slip and I'll take that top lead spot in the longest streak. I'm regularly and frequently on the site. LinkedIn, you can search for me, Chris Kelly. You can email me, chriskelly@creighton.edu. Nice, easy email address to get a hold of. I want to hear from people. Like, if it's even just to chat, to reach out, to say, hey, I heard about you mentioning the high pointing thing on another podcast or at Infocom or whatever. Like, talk to me. Connections are everything, and we are empowered by the connections that we have with people in meaningful ways. So reach out.
Love it. Love it. Thank you so much for joining. This has been fun. I've enjoyed this conversation. This is a good one. I was like, these are good ones. These are good ones. As everyone, as always, I should say, you can find me at Josiah Way on all the socials, HETMA_org on all the socials, Higher Idea on all the socials. And I encourage you, if you're this far, you know that we do the press conference later today, but also hopefully I want you to listen back to the HETMA press conference, find out how you can get involved. And of course, just like Chris said, let's all connect, let's all grow together. And of course, as always, the opinions expressed here are those of any of our respected institutions, sponsors of the show, or really anyone who wants to sue us. That being said, everyone, have a great week. And if you did not like these opinions, there may be better ones next time.